There is a ghost that haunts your life. It is not a ghost of the dead, it is a ghost of the living. It is the ghost of the person you were compared to. Maybe it was a sibling who brought home better grades. Maybe it was a cousin who was more obedient. Maybe it was a neighbor's child who was more athletic. Or maybe it was simply an imaginary version of yourself, a version that your parents held in their minds, a version that was taller, smarter, quieter, or better than the child standing in front of them. This is the trauma of the comparison trap. It begins very early, often before you have the words to understand it. You are standing in a room, feeling perfectly fine, feeling whole, and then a comment is made. Why can't you be more like your brother? Look at how well she behaves. Why do you have to be so difficult? He is already reading. Why are you still struggling? In that moment, a fracture occurs in your psyche. You learn a devastating lesson. Being you is not enough. Your value is not intrinsic, it is relative. You are only good if you are better than someone else. You are only worthy if you win. And if you are just yourself, with your own unique pace, your own unique flaws, and your own unique gifts, you are a disappointment. This creates a split in your soul. On one side is the child you actually are, the one who likes to daydream, the one who maybe isn't good at math but loves to draw, the one who is sensitive. On the other side is the phantom ideal, the child your parents wanted. You realize to get love, to get attention, to get that warm gaze of approval, you have to kill the real child and become the phantom. You have to race against this other person, this rival, to earn your place in the family. You begin to look at the world not through your own eyes, but through a measuring tape. You stop asking, do I like this, and start asking, am I better at this than him? You stop asking, am I happy, and start asking, am I ahead? Life stops being a journey and starts being a competition. And it is a competition you are terrified of losing, because in your childhood home, losing didn't just mean second place. Losing meant invisibility. Losing meant shame. The tragedy of the compared child is that they lose their own definition. You don't know who you are because you were always defined by who you were not. You were the loud one because your sister was the quiet one. You were the lazy one because your brother was the driven one. These labels are not truths, they are just coordinates on a map of comparison. But you accepted them as destiny. You wore them like a heavy coat that didn't fit, and you are likely still wearing that coat today. You learned to scan the room. You became hyper-aware of everyone else's talents and achievements. If someone walked into the room who was more attractive, more successful, or more charming, you immediately felt your own value plummet. It is a zero-sum game. If they have light, I must be in darkness. If they are good, I must be bad. You cannot celebrate others because their success feels like a direct attack on your worth. This is not because you were a jealous person. It is because you were taught that love is a scarce resource given only to the winner. As you grow older, this constant comparison internalizes. You no longer need your parents to stand next to you and point out your flaws. You have installed their voices inside your own head. You have become your own tormentor. You wake up in the morning and the race begins before you even get out of bed. You check your phone. You see someone's life on social media, and instantly the inner critic wakes up. Look at them, it whispers. They are doing so much better. You are falling behind. You are wasting your time. This creates a state of chronic, low-level anxiety. You feel like you're always running late for a train that has already left the station. You feel a frantic need to catch up, but you don't even know what you're chasing. Is it money? Is it status? Is it a perfect family? Or is it just the desperate need to finally hear the words, you did it, you are good enough, you can stop running now? But the finish line keeps moving. That's the trap. Because you're trying to fill an internal void with external achievements, no amount of success will ever feel like enough. If you get the promotion, you will immediately compare yourself to the CEO. If you buy a house, you will compare it to the neighbor's bigger house. You're drinking salt water to quench a thirst for fresh water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. This dynamic wreaks havoc on your ability to find your true passion. The compared child often chooses a career not because they love it, but because it looks impressive. You might become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer because those were the winning professions in your family's eyes. You might spend decades climbing a ladder only to realize when you get to the top that it is leaning against the wrong wall. You built a life to impress people who couldn't be satisfied, and in the process, you abandoned the things that actually brought you joy. You might feel a deep sense of envy. Envy is a heavy, shameful emotion. We hate to admit we feel it, but for the compared child, envy is a survival reflex. When you see someone succeeding in a way you wish you were, it triggers that old childhood wound. It triggers the memory of being looked over. It triggers the fear of abandonment. You don't just want what they have, you want the safety that you imagine comes with having it. You think, if I were them, I would finally be safe from judgment. This envy isolates you. It makes it hard to have deep, genuine friendships. How can you be truly close to someone if you are secretly competing with them? How can you support them if their wins make you feel like a loser? You might find yourself pulling away from friends who are doing too well, or surrounding yourself with people you perceive as less than you just to feel a momentary sense of superiority. This is a lonely way to live. It is a fortress built of insecurity. And then there's the exhaustion. It is tiring to always be measuring. It is tiring to always be performing. You are like an actor who never gets to step off the stage. You are constantly curating your image, hiding your struggles, and exaggerating your wins because you are terrified that if people saw the messy, imperfect reality of your life, they would look at you with that same disappointed gaze you remember from childhood. You are carrying the weight of a false self, and it is crushing your spine. The comparison trap doesn't just affect your career or your self-esteem. It poisons your romantic relationships. When you grow up being compared, you learn that love is conditional. You learn that you are easily replaceable. If there is someone better, you assume you will be traded in. This manifests as intense insecurity in relationships. You constantly compare yourself to your partner's exes. You stalk them online, analyzing their photos, asking yourself, was she prettier? Was he smarter? Did they have more fun? You torture yourself with ghosts of the past. You are looking for evidence that you are less than, and because the mind is a confirmation bias machine, you will always find it. You might also compete with your partner. In a healthy relationship, you are a team. In a relationship tainted by the comparison trap, you are rivals. If your partner gets a raise, a part of you feels inadequate. If they are the funny one at the party, you feel dull. You might find yourself subtly putting them down or minimizing their achievements just to level the playing field. You don't want to do this, you love them, but your trauma response is faster than your love. Your nervous system perceives their shine as your shadow. This can also lead to the "I must be perfect" syndrome. You believe that to keep your partner, you have to be the perfect boyfriend, the perfect wife, the perfect provider. You hide your weaknesses, you hide your fears, you never let them see you crumble. But intimacy requires vulnerability. You cannot be intimate with a statue. By trying to be perfect, you actually prevent the connection you crave. You are so busy auditing yourself that you forget to just be with the other person. The comparison trap also robs you of the present moment. You cannot enjoy a sunset if you are thinking about how someone else saw a better sunset in Bali. You cannot enjoy a simple meal if you are thinking about the fancy dinner your friend posted on Instagram. Comparison steals the joy of what is by forcing you to focus on what could be or what others have. You are living in a hypothetical life, missing the actual life that is unfolding right in front of you. You might struggle with imposter syndrome. Even when you achieve something great, you feel like a fraud. You think, I only got this because I was lucky, or if they knew how hard I had to work for this, they wouldn't be impressed. You compare your internal struggles with everyone else's external highlight reel. You see their trophies, but you don't see their tears. You know your own darkness, but you only see their light. And so you conclude that you are the only one who is faking it. This mindset creates a deep sense of bitterness. You start to feel that life is unfair. Why is it so easy for them and so hard for me? You start to resent the world. This bitterness is poison. It eats away at your happiness. It turns you into a cynic. You stop trying because you assume the deck is stacked against you. You become the victim of a story you are writing in your own head. But you must understand this. The person you are comparing yourself to does not exist. The image you have of them, the successful sibling, the perfect friend, the happy influencer, is a mirage. It is a two-dimensional cutout. They have their own demons. They have their own sleepless nights. They have their own feeling of not being enough. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage with their movie trailer. It is not a fair comparison. It is a fantasy designed to make you suffer. The damage of comparison goes even deeper. It severs your connection to your own intuition. When you are always looking outside for validation, you stop looking inside for direction. You lose your inner compass. You make choices based on what will look good to others rather than what feels right to you. You might buy a car you can't afford because it signals success. You might marry someone you don't truly love because they look good on paper. You might live in a city you hate because that's where successful people live. You are building a life that is a monument to other people's expectations, a museum of things you thought you should want. And inside that museum, you are lonely. You are a stranger in your own house. This disconnect leads to a profound existential crisis. You might wake up one day in your 30s, 40s, or 50s and ask, whose life is this? You followed all the rules. You won the competitions. You beat the other runners. But you realize you were running on a treadmill. You haven't gone anywhere. You were just tired. This is the cost of the comparison trap, the loss of the self. You traded your authenticity for approval. You traded your unique soul for a generic definition of success. And the worst part is, the approval never lasts. The applause fades, the trophy gathers dust, and you are left with the silence of a life that does not fit you. But there is a way out. The door is not locked. The first step to breaking free is to realize that the game is rigged. You cannot win a race that has no finish line. You cannot find your worth by measuring it against someone else, because worth is not a number. It is not a ranking. You have to mourn the phantom ideal. You have to grieve the child your parents wanted you to be. You have to accept that you will never be that person. And thank God for that. That person was a fiction. That person was a robot. You are real. You are flesh and blood. You are messy and complex and beautiful in your own specific way. You have to stop looking at your siblings or your peers as rivals and start seeing them as fellow strugglers. They are not the enemy. They are just other people trying to survive their own conditioning. When you stop competing, you can start connecting. You can start seeing them for who they are, not for what they represent in your internal hierarchy. You need to cultivate JOMO, the joy of missing out. The joy of being on your own path, even if it is slower, even if it is quieter. You have to learn to celebrate your own small wins without looking to see if anyone is watching. Did you cook a meal you liked? That is a win. Did you rest when you were tired? That is a win. Did you stay true to yourself in a difficult moment? That is a victory that no scoreboard can capture. You must redefine success. Success is not being better than the other person. Success is being true to yourself. Success is liking the person you see in the mirror, not because they are the fairest of them all, but because they are yours. Success is peace. Healing from the comparison trap requires a radical act of rebellion. You must choose to be average. This sounds terrifying to the compared child. Average was the insult. Average was the failure. But in this context, average means human. It means accepting that you have limits. It means accepting that there will always be someone smarter, richer, or faster, and realizing that it does not matter. When you accept your ordinariness, you are actually claiming your freedom. You are stepping off the pedestal of expectation. You are saying, I do not have to be extraordinary to be worthy of love. I do not have to be the best to be allowed to exist. This is the ultimate liberation. The pressure lifts, the noise quiets down. You can finally breathe. You begin to practice radical self-acceptance. This means looking at your flaws, your procrastination, your anxiety, your crooked nose, your messy past, and saying, "This belongs." You stop trying to edit yourself. You stop trying to crop out the ugly parts of the picture. You accept the whole image. You realize that your value is not a stock price that goes up and down based on performance. Your value is a constant. It was there when you were born, it is there now, and it will be there when you die. It cannot be added to, and it cannot be subtracted from. Comparison is an illusion that tries to quantify the unquantifiable. You start to curate your environment. You unfollow the social media accounts that make you feel small. You distance yourself from the relatives who still make backhanded comments. You surround yourself with people who celebrate you, not those who compete with you. You protect your peace ferociously. You also begin to develop compersion. This is the opposite of jealousy. It is the feeling of joy for another person's success. It is a muscle you can build. When a friend wins, you practice saying, "I am so happy for them," and you practice feeling it. You remind yourself, their light does not dim mine. There is enough space for all of us to shine. This shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. It is a slow process. The old voice of the critic will still pop up. It will say, "You should be doing more," but now you can talk back to it. You can say, "I am doing enough. I am enough." You can treat that voice not as a command, but as a symptom of an old injury, an injury that is healing. Ultimately, breaking the comparison trap is about coming home to yourself. It is about realizing that you have a unique frequency, a unique vibration that only you can emit. If you spend your life trying to sing someone else's song, the world loses your voice. Think of a forest. Does the oak tree compare itself to the bamboo? Does the rose envy the moss? The oak grows slow and strong. The bamboo grows fast and flexible. The rose blooms for a season. The moss endures the winter. They are different, but they are not superior or inferior. They are just different expressions of life. You are a specific expression of life. Your journey is not supposed to look like anyone else's. Your timeline is your own. You might bloom late. You might take a detour. You might change direction completely. That is not failure. That is your story unfolding. The child inside you, the one who was measured, weighed, and found wanting, is still waiting for approval. But the approval cannot come from your parents, and it cannot come from the world. It must come from you. You must be the one to look at that child and say, "I choose you. I choose you over the sibling. I choose you over the genius. I choose you over the phantom. I love you exactly as you are." When you finally give yourself that permission, the race ends. You stop running. You look around and you realize you're standing in a beautiful field. You are alive. You are free. And you are and always were enough.